Back for more coaching?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that's up for you today that we can address?
Let's see. I know last time we spoke a little bit about family stuff going on for me, and I appreciate your support on that. And I felt like just having that support was really helpful and empowering to keep me centered
When you were in Florida?
with that. Yeah. This is actually real. So, and just sort of taking myself out of that very emotional state, which family tends to trigger, and being level-headed, which as a 2 is tough. I function from the heart a lot, so we've done the Enneagram and learning about my tendencies and doing that sort of third eye, 10,000 foot away perspective on myself was so helpful to move forward with this and understand also who my family is and how they're who they are, not who I necessarily want them to be, and accepting that and being really clear on that. And in some ways, creating my own little mantra and helping my...
What was the mantra? Can you share it?
Yeah, and it's just very simple. I'm like, I'm unaffected by this. Because, you know, my dad isn't a very emotional, warm guy. So that's... And the reason I came up with that is because my brother, who's 10 years older than I, still talks about he has to heal his inner child, and he has all these triggers, and I see him not being that great with his wife, and his little son is running around like a wild child, and I'm like, you need to guide your son, you need to be more intuitive and more appreciative of your wife, and I don't know, you know, as a sister, as a sibling, you feel comfortable saying these things, you know? So allowing him to see me, I think, was also very healing for him.
Yeah, to see you in this new
empowered
kind of, and with this new mantra working for you.
Yeah. Instead of like being so
emotional,
I'm unaffected.
Be dragged down by this.
Right. Yep. And it was great. I called a meeting with my dad without his wife. Who loves to interrupt and you know has a lot of judgment and things to say. So we were literally, if I can share this, we were literally on the beach at the same time in Naples. And my brother and I and his wife and kid were at one part of the beach, and they were at another part. And I called my dad, I'm like, I need to speak with you privately. He's like, okay. He's approachable, but he's not very warm or affectionate or anything like that. So I said, all right, so I'll come find you. He's like, I'm on this side of the pier, etc. So I just hung up. My brother's like, what? You're doing this now? I'm doing it now. And I just walked over, and my dad stands up. I'm like, hello, Crystal. And we just started walking. And I learned that for men, it's very helpful. You don't want to put them on a spot, more specifically than women, like in a sitting situation. Like
confrontation.
Walking is like, you know, kind of a male characteristic of not being threatened. So I'm like, let's go for a walk on the beach.
And you did that. Did your brother accompany you?
No.
Just the two?
Yes. Because I didn't want to gang up on him.
Yeah.
I felt like
this clear discussion.
The best way, yeah. And I started the conversation like this. Pops, I want you to know that I love and respect you very much. And he's like, ditto. And then he says, I hear you have some grievances.
Ditto. Okay.
I hear you have some grievances. I'm like, no, not grievances. But I feel that I haven't been completely honest with you in my life.
All right. What a beautiful disclosure.
And
from there?
nonviolent communication kind of came up for me.
Yeah.
Like, this is how I feel. And then from there, well, I was like, let's start at the beginning.
Gosh.
And I just talked about how when I was 18, I learned that he wasn't my real father, that I had another dad, and that my parents had kept this secret to protect me. But then I also told him that once they got divorced and this was put in my lap, then there was an identity crisis. Then my mother was a disaster and I had to take care of her. And then I never really got to address it. And then I got caught up in things, and I got lost in all this stuff. And it's like, I'm not really interested in your emotional garbage.
Okay. Which is...
I'm like, okay, well then...
response to here.
That's, okay, look, once again, I'm getting clear on who he is and accepting that. I'm not going to change this guy. So,
still in all, there's
still,
a lot to say
yeah,
to a daughter.
Surreal,
yeah.
On the beach,
yeah.
Waves crashing, people walking by. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And then this happened, and then this happened. And this is my narrative. This is my timeline in life. And he was receptive and not warm, but also just representative of who I kind of always saw him to be. So it was good. It was like finding a lot of clarity.
Clarity in that he responded according to the pattern that you've grown familiar with.
Yeah.
And so your expectation was not that he was going to respond differently to begin with. You were pretty, sounds like, prepared in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. Before I did that, I went into the little ladies' room at the beach, and I like looked at myself in the mirror and water and all this stuff, and deep breathing, and literally just gave myself a nice little force field.
So what was the hardest part about this? The anticipation or the delivery or his reception?
I think the hardest part was the day before.
Before the anticipation.
Yes, the anticipation.
Yeah, of delivering and a communication that you felt brewing in you for how long?
Like forever.
For years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it was never addressed that he never mentioned that he's not my real father. Isn't that weird? Like, I mean, that's kind of disconnected.
You've known him since babyhood?
As an infant.
Okay. So he considers himself
Absolutely.
your father.
Yeah. I think so much that he never even wanted to bring it up.
And when you say he's not my real father, what does that mean to you?
It's more of a biological thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at my sister and brother, they are blonde hair, blue-eyed. And then my real father's Greek, so that's this. And it's something that I've always had to work through. I always knew, but just that acknowledgement would be nice. Yeah, my sister and brother always teased me. And then they knew, but they couldn't say anything. It was like this huge secret that finally I addressed. So I felt pretty good about that.
Oh, Christine, I'm proud of you. There's family secrets that are carried to the grave that people never get to have an open, honest conversation about. And you did it. You drummed up the courage and you had that conversation with them.
Thanks, Meg. I think it was affecting my health too. Like all this back pain that I've experiencing my whole life, all this holding on, that just being able to speak my truth.
Speak your truth, and without a lot of attachment to the outcome.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I really applaud you for that. It's just, that's a milestone in life, Christine, a milestone. How did you celebrate that milestone? Which is a coaching question. So instead of, right now, if this was therapy, excuse me,
right.
It's a teaching session. If this was therapy, we could go into even more of some of the fully unexpressed emotional content behind this very, very difficult thing of confronting a parent with a flat affect. But instead, it's coaching, so a little bit of difference right now. And instead of going back and uncovering even more trauma, we're going to say, how did she celebrate a milestone like this in her life? So you see the difference. Coaching follows the trail of celebration. Therapy follows the trail of tears. Okay, back to you. How do you celebrate something like this?
Went back and told my brother what happened. His job basically dropped. So I shared that with him. He's like, you said what? He said what? And you didn't do it? And then? I'm like, nope, I'm unaffected. And I can't speak for you, but I feel very powerful now. And things have changed for me. I don't really care that much anymore. So then, we were staying in one condo. My dad was staying in his condo. Little short walk in the active retirement community. So So I invited him over to dinner for at our house.
You invited your brother and your dad?
My dad, where we were staying with my brother.
Oh, yeah.
So dad and wife came over to our place, because we've been doing a lot of entertaining at his spot. So I said, I'd like to invite you over, kind of as a reward, even, just for having that conversation.
Yeah, nice
And
idea.
to be on my turf, and make the dinner that I wanted.
Life on your terms.
Yeah, that was actually really wonderful, and he was very polite and grateful.
Something might have been relieved
I
for
think
him
for
as
him
well, in his own incommunicative way.
Because I didn't attack him,
No.
and that is the easy way. So it took a lot of
heavy judgment. It was just, here's what's so for me.
Yeah. So then we had a nice dinner, and as he left, he's like, well, come visit us in New York sometime. I said, sure, if you're nice. And shut the door.
You let him know that there's conditions on continuing the relationship.
Yes.
So what I'm doing is a lot of relabeling right now, if you're nice. So we could type that sentence and unpack it more, but instead I tried to summarize it. You're letting him know what the conditions are for a continued relationship. And then check it out with her. Is that right? Are those conditions going to stay in place for you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I feel good about it.
So a little bit more of exploration on this, because this was such a big event. You can stay in exploration a little longer. And I would explore this one sentence you have a lot. I am unaffected. Give me a little more on that. What does that mean to you?
I think that's sort of me graduating to self-awareness in a sense.
Yeah, heightened self-awareness.
Yep, and understanding that just because something bubbles up for me doesn't mean that that has to be my truth.
Okay.
Like a negative emotion, for example.
Right.
So again, back to that, sort of that equals empowerment.
Heightened self-awareness, a broad perspective, empowered life, empowered choices. So what we've done is taken a sentence like, I'm unaffected, which can have a negative tone to it. And Barbara Fredrickson's work with positive psychology tells us you're always going to have more creativity and you're going to have greater access to creative solution makings if you can move with more positive emotions in life instead of moving with negative emotions. Negative emotions will fuel you for a little bit, but they'll also kick you in the butt because they don't sustain any real effort. But helping her reframe some of this language of I am unaffected too, she did a beautiful job with it too. You heard her say, I have heightened self-awareness now. These are positives in life, so we're going to help her reframe this with a real positive piece. Great work. I'm thoroughly amazed. Your brother, how's he?
Thanks for asking.
But he heard you, his jaw dropped, and in a sense, how do you feel about setting a role model for him?
Really, really great. Zizo's been a great role model for me. It was a little bit of giving back in some ways. And helping him, in a sense, we also took a walk.
Oh, we did? What happened with that?
Beautiful. Like this kind of, I don't know, it was almost like passing the baton in a good way, in a positive way. And we actually walked into the ocean and stood there for a little bit and chatted about his family and how he doesn't need to repeat things that happened in our family, but he also doesn't have to go in the complete opposite direction. He says things like, I don't want to discipline my son. Like, well, he's 2.5 now, and this is when I think it's important to start creating some structure. I mean, your son is screaming on the floor, go to him, and feeling, not by making him feel bad, but also like just making him aware of why he's doing these things. Is it because our family was a certain way and you want to be the complete opposite of that? Is that really?
That could be part of this.
That's
your instinct.
Yeah.
That's probably what's at foot here.
It is my instinct, and I think he recognized that a little bit. So if that's just raising his awareness a little bit, that's also a way of celebrating in a sense.
Letting Christine talk about this a little bit more is just giving me an idea of the family dynamics afoot here. There's something called implicit memory. Like implicit memory means it's all the background noise of the attitudes, the beliefs, the values, the discussions, the dialogues, everything that happened to you from birth on. It kind of recedes. It's not an explicit memory of this happened on this birthday and I remember people walking in and saying this to me. Implicit memory is more background noise. And we often operate out of implicit memory. We operate out of all this kind of silent conditioning of dialogue that we grew up with. And we make choices out of it that are very unconscious. And your brother's choice of how he's disciplining his child now is something that may just be coming out of implicit memory. This happened to me and I'm not really recalling it, but I'm not going to do what my dad did or whatever happened.
Right.
And so what he's operating from is very narrow. It's not the broadened self-awareness that you've arrived at. So you're role modeling something, a greater sense of choice for him. Expanded choice to operate from. We always want more choice, not to just have a knee-jerk unconscious reaction.
Right,
yeah.
Right, exactly. And just giving him that. You're bigger than this in a sense, you know, you don't have to. He kept going back to, I need to heal my inner child. Like, who says this? Where do you keep getting this from? He's really had a coach when he was in grieving. He lost his first wife of 10 years. She passed away. And he's been through a lot. So he's been through a whole lot. So just being able to see him has been great because he lives in Germany. So I don't see him very often. So just reconnecting was really nice. And it took a lot of energy to work through all this. But it's like, the time is now. We gotta get serious.
This was a big holiday time.
Huge. And it was unexpected, but why this inner child business? Because like, that's what they say. Like, there are other people that say other things about moving forward without having to go back and bringing back all those wounded feelings. You don't have to. You can move forward in other ways. Because he's thinking about it very specific.
Yeah, he is. And
wrapped.
And if I can switch hats for just a second, you've got a lot invested in him being well and being happy. And these sentences you're giving him now, they kind of invade his space a bit on his journey. Do you know that?
I do.
Okay, good.
But then there's like the sister that just wants to like break down the wall of the brother. You know, that's also in me too. So
yeah, it is.
It gets to the point where I'm like, okay, enough.
No.
But.
And with, you know, we don't know the extent of grief that you go through when you bury a spouse and the extent of grief, and there may be something in this inner child work that's appealing to him right now. A deep, wounded inner place that could use some kind of level of comfort with it. So his path won't be Christine's path.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
I'm
part
okay
of you
with
can
that.
let go? Can you let go a little bit?
I can. I think more of anything, I just wanted to give him hope and opportunities, that there is more than just that.
That's right.
That until he gets the opportunity to do that, which seems to be difficult because he just doesn't have the time, that I was like, well, how about this? Around the house, what does your evening look like with your wife? Because she's exhausted, and I can see that. And that's what she's telling me. Do you know this? He's like, no. I'm like, well, what is your dynamic? So what could you do maybe to make her world a little nicer and more pleasant? I know how much you love her. When I come home, I sit on the couch and she cooks dinner. Well, maybe, well, she's so fast, she does everything right away. I'm like, well, maybe you could take a little more initiative. And
so these are still sisterly questions?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Instead of, what is it that would give your relationship lots of juice? Okay, so that's an open-ended question versus the kinds of questions Christine is in. And she's doing some wonderful screwing up here for us all. The type of questions that are not necessarily coaching questions.
There's definitely not coaching involved.
No, because can we ever coach our family? Can you put therapy in our families? Not a great idea. And so her questions are completely flavored with her passion that she wants her brother whole and healthy and well, and damn it, so just sitting on the couch, can't you just help her with dinner? It's not a coaching question. A coaching question would be, in this case, tell me what puts juice in that relationship for you. How do you get more of that? very open-ended. You let him direct the answers. So next time you talk to him.
I'm gonna, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Turn the tables.
Exactly.
But back to you, because this is your coaching session. So you came home from Naples. What happened after that? How did you slide back into your life after that major intervention with your dad?
I went to Austin, Texas.
What was there?
A friend, and somebody, like a dear old friend who understands me very well, and I took in some good, like, support and nurturing for myself.
Oh.
So,
A very good friend.
Yeah, I got some, like, I just took some me time. I had a couple of days, and this dear old friend had some miles, and he just started a business that I invested in years ago. So it was a little bit of a celebration that this is all, it's an app that's all coming to fruition, and then I'm helping him launch. So it was a little bit of business and a little bit of sightseeing in Austin, which is great.
Great town.
My kind of town. So from Naples, which is like,
Yeah.
to somewhere where...
The sister city of San Francisco,
Yes.
it's called. Yeah, with music.
And music, and then I found my favorite little juice place and went to the vegan Integrative Health Center.
Oh, you were in heaven.
Oh, I was in pure heaven. I was like, this is me again, you know, and this is my happy place. So, and there are good people out there. I was confused for a second. Things get a little, like, you know, twisted up. So
You enter that dark corridor of family dysfunction.
Yeah.
And you had to return to the life that you're creating.
Yes. Yeah, and of course, Dad doesn't understand health coaching, and it's all, you know, fluffy nonsense. So, like, all right, tired of defending myself, and I'm going to go to a place where I feel supported and validated. So I did that for a couple of days, and I just got back on Saturday.
You did. Fantastic. I love the way you took time for yourself. I really commend you for that. That's fantastic. And at this point, if there were to be something on the horizon that you'd say, Meg, this is really the next thing I want to go after, what would that be?
I think just continuing on my path and being grateful for the people that are around me. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me at this point, is knowing that I have choices. I have choices that I can make in life, and that I've been making good ones.
What happens when you practice gratitude?
All good things. I think it's a lifesaver on all levels for anyone, but for me especially, just taking that time to be appreciative of what I do have. Even though I don't have that much, but the little things.
How do you do it specifically in a day? Is it part of a morning meditation? What happens?
My greatest practice of gratitude comes up. I don't have a specific practice. Comes up when I feel myself turning a little bit to the negative, and that's when I stop. Wherever, whenever.
Yeah.
Put
the brakes on it.
Yeah, I put the brakes on and practice gratitude at that point. And that always turns it around.
It works for you really well.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm spending a little time now with just reinforcement of her own values in life, what keeps her whole and healthy, okay? And I'm jotting them down because this is like doing a strength inventory for somebody. And then I, as her coach, remind her of her strengths, of her values, what's really important to her. A life of conscious awareness and practice of gratitude, being grateful. She kept saying, I want to be back on my path, I want to be grateful. So pick up on that. You're listening right now, very carefully now, for values talk, strengths talk. Coaching is about building your strengths inventory. Good.
That's great. Yeah. And ending on such a positive note too, however long the session is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm committed as your coach to helping you discover how to really anchor that path, whether it's with gratitude or whatever else is some nugget you want to polish and hold on to as well. That I would be honored to co-discover that with you.
Thank you, Meg. I appreciate it.
Good. And I would draw this session to an end because she actually the emotional work she did around her dad was enough for one session in a sense too. But I would ask now too if there was, say like there was an actual thing that you wanted to establish, redo a website or get something or reach out to new clients. I would look at specific little homework for the week until our next session as well. And then of course the golden question of, and how do you want to be accountable to yourself for that? Do you want to check in with me with a midweek email or a phone call or just appointment? What works for you?
Well, would you mind checking in with me in a few days?
Yeah. So let's say today is Tuesday. By Thursday, you get a text or an email from me?
I like a text.
A text. I do a little text Thursday and a reminder.
Okay.
You got it.
Thanks.
And then we close. So we have a means of checking in. We maybe have had a little bit of homework for her if she wanted it. If she didn't, she'd be clear and free till next week's session. But I would probably do more work on why does she even need to see a coach anymore? Because this was kind of complete into itself, right? There wasn't a big burning, I still want to work on X with you. Yeah, it's just that she doesn't have anything come up now, so I don't push that. Good, so we can do another. Yeah, you did a good job with that.
Thank you.
Let's talk about what you all heard. And first of all, I didn't do this. Ding me for this. How did this coaching session go for you? What could I have done differently or improved upon? Besides interrupting you every few minutes to talk to our bystanders.
I completely understand that part. I think you were definitely on the mark about it being enough, and because it was, I just went straight for the deep emotional situation because that's what I got. If anything, we did end it. If you could have maybe said, "Is there anything else you want to talk about?" That's maybe a little different topic.
Yep.
Because yes, I do want to improve my website, and there are some words. Some stuff, just, of course, it's like.
Thank you for that. That's great. Absolutely.
But otherwise, it's just such a nice dynamic and flow to it.
Didn't feel invasive.
No.
Didn't feel intrusive.
And I love the gratitude part because that actually inside makes you feel successful. Successful session.
And I like you celebrating that milestone. I like the way you went to Austin too. Yeah. And just reconnected with the life that Christine is choosing. Not the life that her dad did or anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
And thank you for asking those questions because that's. Now, what if I did not celebrate it?
Right.
Where did that go?
That's fine to still ask that coaching question. And you would say, I didn't. And then I would say, boy, coaching, when somebody accomplishes something like that, we take a pause. And I would teach her about celebrating. And it seems kind of lightweight in a sense, so much after the fact to even talk about something like that. But it's all part of acknowledging her. If she's not acknowledging herself or something, the coach is going to do that, carry that. Yeah. Right.
Can I go back to one thing?
Yeah.
Back to the celebrating, just, for example, what if I said, well, I went out and I ate an entire cake and a pizza.
I'd say, how did you feel after that?
Not so good.
I'm wondering if there's a way to celebrate that still makes you feel good. What do you think?
Probably.
Yeah, what might that be?
Well, I guess I could do something that's a little healthier.
Yeah, but if it doesn't turn you on right now, what else could you do? I don't want to lead her to what's in my head. I want her to really say something on her own.
I don't know, I like to go out dancing. Maybe I should find a good show to go see.
Do you ever have a few slices of pizza and a cake and feel okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of the whole cake.
Yeah.
That might be
I guess so. That's, because I do like pizza.
Yeah, I love pizza too.
All right.
I'm not taking your pizza away. A few slices. Yeah.
Okay.
But and dancing on top of it.
Well, there, that would make me feel good about eating pizza.
But we would have a laugh about that, but I wouldn't do anything to take away the simple joys that you have. Unless you really said, I felt like hell afterwards. You know, then it's like, well, okay, I'm still your health coach here. I'm not going to relinquish that role. If we've spent the last 2 years talking about overeating stuff that makes, you know, cheese and sugar that you...
Yeah.
That was our first appointment years ago. It was cheese and sugar. She said, I'm getting off dairy. And I don't know. It's true. So I would have to kind of hold that in my memory bank for her too.
Right.
Yeah. Now we open it up to everybody. Questions?
I had another question about something that didn't happen.
Good.
When you put on your consultant hat and you know, made the point that the questions she was asking her brother were not really coaching type questions and whatnot. Had she at that point gotten defensive with you or started justifying, how would you have managed that?
Great question, Suzanne. I think defensiveness usually covers up some admission inside. And it can cover up a range of things, emotions. But I would work with the defensiveness and at that point and say, it could be a defense, defending the role she has as sister in protecting her brother. It could be defending her worry over her brother. And I would dig a little deeper into it, probably, you know, and say, gosh, I hear that you really needed to ask those questions. And the questions that you were asking him, tell me what drove those. What was behind those questions? And let her disclose her amount of worry or anything else. It would probably do another turn for the coaching session altogether. Right. You know, we would have to be talking a little bit more on family dynamics and relationship.
But you wouldn't just back off and ignore the defensiveness?
No, really. Defensiveness, I would use emotion. Emotion is so wonderful to use in coaching, just as it is in therapy. And emotion is so tied to the amygdala, it's so tied to how we actually move forward in life with decisions. We don't really make any coolly logical decisions. We know from brain and neuroscience that it's emotion that is our biggest factor in how we decide and how we move forward. So it's a golden nugget for us in coaching. Never back down from emotion.
Acknowledging it.
Yeah, acknowledging what's there. Yeah. And learn not to take a defensive or an angry statement back from a coach. Boy, put your own energetic shields up and realize what a gift. What a gift. She's showing me some of the underlying power behind those words. It's not directed at me, really. It's part of her own complex, her whole context that she's dealing with right now. Yeah, Sarah?
If she wasn't expressing a lot of frustration around talking to her brother, I mean, I was wondering if there was a piece where you felt like you had to just point out the incongruity because she's a coach, and so you were kind of doing that. If she seemed like if she wasn't a coach and you didn't know that and have that relationship, and she wasn't expressing frustration when she was articulating what she was saying to him, would you still have felt like, I need to point this out to you, how you're addressing him, or do you get what I'm...
If she wasn't a coach and she
wasn't a coach and didn't
about, and here's what my brother needs to do. I don't like the way he's raising his child, and I don't like the way this is it. And he's kind of ignoring this wife and this thing. Yeah, she had a lot of judgment about how the brother's living, right? And that amount of judgment now is being transferred from the father. I don't judge him anymore. He is who he is. Well, my brother. And so she's actually just kind of redirecting judgment in a family that had a lot of dysfunction. Yeah, and that can just spin again like another needle and land on a sister and land on son and then land back on her again. So I did want to call it out at that point too. Yeah, because eventually you're going to look at your brother as somebody who's living his life, and God bless him, and I've got all sorts of good ideas for him, but I'm going to be respectful in how I engage with him over it.
Right, and that's just genuine frustration.
That's
and I wasn't trying to be a coach, but I am. So that's that was great that Meg could just say, you know, since you are a coach, you recognize that. Yeah. And I sure did.
And what's amazing is once you're a coach, you are a coach in all aspects of your life. You are a lifelong coach. You never stop. You start living these principles, and then you do peer coaching with your friends, and they remind you of, here's another area of your life you might bring that coaching wisdom to. And it spills over into that area of your life, and your life blossoms even more. Yeah.
And then if you had, gone with that scenario, would you have done the same as to maybe you pointed out that the inner child work might have some meaning to the brother. Would that have been a good route to go with his perspective and say, how might that be meaningful to your brother, or some kind of question that would have brought her to see maybe that part instead of calling on her own judgment of it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think I would use a coaching technique in that moment, great question to me, called the 10,000 sky foot view.
Oh.
And I would have her do a little imagery with me right now and say, okay, time out, Christine. We're going to do a little closed-eyed imagery. I'm wearing my consultant hat for just a second, and because it's going to be a little bit of a guided imagery. And I want you to picture your brother back in Germany, but you're picturing him from 10,000 feet above him. There he is, managing his life. What do you see him doing? Came home from work. He's doing this thing. Just observe now, 10,000 feet up there. You're watching his circle. He's reading something about inner child. He's talking to somebody about that. He's living his life. He's struggling with it. He's coping with it. He doesn't have all the answers yet. He's searching. And I would let her start to feel that spaciousness of non-judgment. Right? Build some space around that. Right now she's right down here with him. You're doing the wrong things. And instead we're going to have her go way up here. And when you do that, you get this shift, actually, from left brain to right brain, where you start to tap into the mirror neuron system a little bit more, the anterior cingulate cortex, and empathy. Empathy. Where judgment exists, empathy does not. What is the first rule in motivational interviewing? Express empathy. Express empathy, right? Yeah. So, then we go to avoiding the writing reflex, and we look for the incongruence, the incongruent matter, and we listen for change talk. We'll go over motivational interviewing another day. Those should be like 5 little points right on your right hand that you pull from all the time. But I think I would do a little guided imagery. I want to get her now into a right brain thing where she can get creative and empathetic and spacious. Because otherwise she'll stay in that kind of logical, cool, there's 5 things that he's not going right for him. And that's spinning the judgment needle. It's toxic for a coach to go out.
Could it be appropriate if you gave like a different scenario, like, oh, Christine, what if, pretend that he isn't your brother, pretend he's just maybe an acquaintance or something, and you're hearing about, like, he wants to work on himself. So I guess from there, how would you feel in this situation if you could picture yourself not as a sister, but as maybe just as a friend? Because maybe that might spark some more empathy or compassion to the situation rather than...
There is a coaching technique like that, Laura, where you say, okay, you don't know what to do about this. Pretend you are your best friend. What would your best friend advise you to do about this? So you do that little bit of a role reversal on things.
Okay.
It's a little harder with the brother. You could say, what do you think your brother's best friend could tell him? I hear where you're going with this, and it is a coaching technique, but it's hard with family, period.
And thank you for acknowledging that, because I was not the best version of myself at that moment.
No.
I was like, come on.
If you didn't do some naughty thing here, we wouldn't have had a session.
Something had to
something had to happen.
And he knows.
Can't be perfect, Christine.
Yeah, but he was okay with it. I knew I wasn't like really hurting his feelings or anything, so he let me let off some steam too.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
He loves you.
Oh, so much. So that was good.
Do you have another sibling?
I have a sister.
Yeah. And she wasn't there?
As soon as I left, she showed up the next day with her 3 kids.
Oh.
And
that would have been another dynamic.
I know, and her kids are just fantastic. So I think she brings this whole nother dynamic to it. Kids are twins that are 10 and a 12-year-old. And she sent me a picture day 2, she's like, we're having a great time. Took a picture of my brother doing the dishes. Unheard of. She goes, we just had a great lunch and Tom's doing the dishes. Takes a picture, sends it to me. I'm like, Tom is the best when he takes initiative.
That would have been fun to at least have a day to cross over with her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Where does she live?
She lives in North Beach.
Oh, okay, she's local.
Super local to
Yeah,
me.
perfect.
She's an angel. So yeah, we're very close. We're my parents are immigrants, so we're all very tight.
Yeah, I
A
can
small
see that.
family. So even if sometimes we blow our lid, it's okay. We know it comes from the right.
Your brother knows this came from wealth. He knows. I'm convinced of that. Very sweet.
I appreciate everybody's.
I appreciate her for going deep.
Yeah, it's just one more thing. Last time I saw you, you were just graduating, and it was that whole time like, what am I gonna do? And I remember you talking about starting a cafe and starting food and coaching and putting all that together. And it was that time of, and just seeing you walk in the door, you're shiny.
Oh.
Yeah, you could tell that you've just really sank into yourself, and it sounds like you've found a niche or something, and it shows. Yeah, just wanted to know that you back.
Thank you so much.
She's got an extraordinary niche with the juicing and detoxing, the juices she makes and delivers to people. Extraordinary.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Beautiful.
And I got a job with Nudge.
You did.
I did.
So
I
she
have a
and Joseph were my two. Like, I get a ton of tech emails, and they said, "I'm handing these off to you. Go after these companies." He hired you.
Hired me. I'm one of 6 partner coaches, and they launched this week. I mean, this is brand new.
Fantastic.
And I'm looking for a leadership position there.
Yes.
I want to be the CCO or something.
Yeah, you should be. Oh, I'm so glad.
Coaching officer. I'm going to make myself chief coaching officer.
I started with tech companies who say, who call me and say,
Yeah.
can you give us some coaching advice on how, if our app is working, is it good for health coaches? And I said, enough of this, Christine. You tell him you want a consultant salary, that you will consult with them, but you need real pay.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're really hired.
I'm hired.
Like payroll, taxes taken out and everything?
Contractor.
Contractor.
Which is
Good.
great.
Even
And
better.
I'm free to coach as I want to coach. I'll show you the whole profile. And you guys, I think some of you have the info. Well, if you go to Nudge app, download it for free. You have 7 days to choose a coach. If you find me on one of those 6 people, and
Ooh, and give her a high rating.
yeah, I think you can rate me. Yeah, you can click in and start a conversation with me. They have a messaging system. It's HIPAA secure, so
Yeah.
they're
I
trying
saw
to
the
work with-
materials you
yeah.
sent me. She was writing out a great counter proposal for him to not just pick her brain in an exploitive way. Here's a
Right.
CIS master's level health coach. How can she help me design my tech startup? And
Yeah,
instead, you are hired.
I got a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I definitely went for it though. I'm like, so, you hiring?
Yeah, that's good.
And then have a conversation there. What's that?
What's your job?
I'm a coach.
What you do there?
So basically, I charge a client, and then they take a percentage of that. Every time I get a client, they take a percentage because they do the marketing and they offer the platform and the structure. So they reach out and get clients for me, and then they take 30%.
And you can coach at phone or Skype or
Yep.
you can set it up at
They
home.
use Zoom.
They use Zoom.
Try Zoom.
No.
It's like a Skype. It's
Okay.
really a great platform. So it's face-to-face, and then they use webinars, so they'll just, shoot out a little something to clients. If somebody wants to learn about a specific topic, and it's pretty good.
It is.
Yeah.
I liked when they set it up. I think they put a lot of thought into this one.
And they're really open to communication and expansion, and they value me.
They do. Because she told them, you need to look at coaching as a personalized
Right.
endeavor. You cannot do one template for coaching, which was what they were first looking at.
Kind of,
Can we
yeah.
roll out a template for this?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You're going to be independent.
So,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You finessed that really
and
well.
it's because of this place, the CSO is like, you're definitely one of the top 5% of coaches I've spoken to ever. I'm like, I don't have that much experience, but just I have this authentic philosophy from this place. So
You'll
it's
find
good.
you'll
You
have
guys are
stuff to
a good
fall
place.
back on, even if you feel like you don't have your script laid out yet, you will have the embodied learning to fall back on.
Yeah.
Turn it off. Then we'll do somebody else and then we'll have a new start.